Welcome back to the Exit Velo podcast. I'm alongside Henry and Ben. Guys, we only have 4 games left. Some teams it's 5 or a little bit more until the regular season ends and the playoffs start. How excited are you to see playoff baseball again?
I am very excited for playoff baseball, Adam, but my feelings are kind of a little all over the place right now because I should be getting very, very excited for the playoffs. My Cubbies clinched the other day, but they're really kind of limping into the playoffs, man. So I'm also terrified at the same time. But Ben, you should be feeling a lot better than I am.
I'll be honest too, actually. I mean, as excited as I'm feeling about my Oakland A's clinching the AL West, everything seems to be looking real good for us. I mean, it's still been a tough week. I mean, having one of our star third baseman, Matt Chapman, go down for the year because he's going to have surgery, so we'll have to do it. I mean, I'm confident in my team that we have a chance at doing it without him, especially given that Jake Lamb's been playing well since we picked him up as the third baseman. But even with the A's, I can never be too confident about postseason stuff. We are notorious for being the team that always loses in the postseason in the first round, even when we've been highly favored. I mean, just look at last year's wild card game. A good amount of people thought we would finally get over that hump last year at the wild card game. We didn't. Or like in 2014, we went all out, got John Lester, and we ended up losing in the wild card game to the Royals. Thankfully, we don't have to play that one-game wild card playoff, which I'm super pumped about. But with anything happening, especially with an 8-team playoff, I'm pretty nervous too this weeks. But I mean, I'm also excited to see what else the playoffs will bring and what other teams will come through. I mean, this I think could be all around one of the most exciting, regardless if my team does well or. I mean, I want my team to do especially well, but if my team does well or not, could be regardless. It could be one of the most memorable playoffs to date, honestly, in baseball history.
Well, it's certainly been a crazy year, like we've almost said every single show for the entire year. And of course, it's no longer a wild card game. It's a wild card series, which might be here to stay. And of course, it's a best of 3 series at the home ballpark. So it is crucial for teams to have home field advantage, such as the Yankees. And they're looking like a number 5 seed, so they'll probably play on the road, which we'll talk about later. But we have a surprising amount of playoff races and playoff seeds that are still in progress. And to start it off, the Twins and the White Sox are battling it out for first place in the AL Central. And it's amazing because the White Sox looked like a great team on paper, but a lot of people were skeptical about how far they'd make the playoffs. Not too many people had them going first place, especially over the juggernaut Twins, who won over 100 games last year. So to see them making it this far, only a half game back of the Twins with 4 games left to play, is pretty amazing. And guys, what are your reasons why you think the Twins or the White Sox will win the Central?
Absolutely, Adam. It is amazing to see this race come down to the last weekend of the season. I think that's another product that we see of the shortened season, everything just being so condensed. You don't have 5-6 months to kind of build up that division lead and then kind of have an anticlimactic last week. So plenty of action, and Twins, White Sox very much at the forefront of that. Like you said, Adam, I think a lot of people weren't expecting the White Sox to get here quite so quickly. They are here, and they are a force to be reckoned with. But the Twins, very much still a very good team, very loaded on offense, still hitting a lot of home runs. And the Twins pitching ended up being a whole lot better than I think a lot of people were accounting for heading into the season. Adam, I seem to remember you were pro Twins pitching in the preseason, I believe. So good call for you there. But really, when we're predicting who wins this division, I think that, the Twins having that lead, that does help for sure. But they're also off today while the White Sox are playing. So there's a chance that the White Sox could erase that lead and have us all even headed into the weekend. If that does happen, even if it doesn't happen, I think I'm kind of still leaning White Sox strictly out of schedule. And as our resident Cubs fan, I can say I'm pretty confident that the White Sox are going to kick some Cubby butt this weekend because the Cubs are one of the coldest teams in baseball currently. And then you look at the other side, the Twins got the Reds coming to town, who are one of the hottest teams in baseball. So I think ultimately schedule is probably the biggest factor here. Ben, am I off base there, or are you agreeing with me?
I'm not going to disagree with you about in terms of favorable schedule that definitely the White Sox have the more favorable. I don't know if the White Sox necessarily have the more favorable schedule, though. I would say, I mean, although the Cubs have been cold, they're not going to be cold forever. I don't think like that. But my big thing is actually, you look at the Reds. I was like this weekend going into it, I was like, yeah, it is going to be tough for the Twins. I mean, they got the Reds, one of the surging Reds, one of the hottest teams in baseball. They have everything to play for now, getting that last spot in the National League, which I'll get to later. By the way, I'm really high on them getting that spot, which we'll get to later. But then I looked at the Reds pitching a little bit, and I was a little unsure because I mean, although they have that three-headed monster pitching of Trevor Bauer, who's probably going to be a Cy Young this year, Luis Castillo, and Sonny Gray. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like any of them are exactly scheduled to pitch this week. Well, at least we know Trevor Bauer probably won't pitch this week because he already had that like stellar outing yesterday. And I mean, so far the Reds haven't fully determined who's pitching those games. So it will definitely depend on who the Reds put out there. But I'm not so certain actually that the Reds pitching that the Twins are actually going to struggle because they might actually have easier Reds pitching to face. Plus, I mean, we were pointing out earlier that like the Twins are also putting out some really effective arms on the mound this weekend, and because they're putting out Barrios on Friday, Pineda going on Saturday, and then Hill on Sunday. I mean, the fact that they already have their pitching figured out kind of makes me kind of lean towards the Twins and the advantage there with the Twins over the White Sox, in my opinion.
Well, Trevor Bauer can, of course, not lead the Reds to a playoff spot alone. And Ben, you do make a good point in how he already pitched the other day and he won't be pitching for probably the rest of the regular season. And after their three-headed monster, they're not too impressive starting pitching wise. And even Sonny Gray, people remember him because he was top 10 in the Cy Young Award last year. This year, he's still having a very good season, has a 1.6 WAR and 10 starts, which is impressive, but he also has a 3.73 ERA. So he's not as good as he was last year. However, Henry, I do agree with you that scheduling-wise can certainly help them, although the White Sox have been cold as well. They have lost 4 straight games, and the Twins have won their last 4 games, although they do have an off day. So it will be interesting to see who will have the easier time, but anything can change, and in baseball, anything can happen. So maybe teams will flip the switch in the last few games as well.
And I think at least one walk-off in that string of White Sox losses. I believe the Indians actually walked off on them 2 nights in a row. So
they did, yeah.
Very, very frustrating to have that happen in the midst of trying to clinch your division to be that close. But ultimately, the White Sox still breaking that decade-long playoff drought. So I think the White Sox faithful will be happy about that. But, I think that ultimately, I'm expecting the White Sox to roll over the Cubs this weekend. It does make me feel a little bit better. I didn't know they'd lost 4 in a row. So, Adam, thank you for building up my confidence a little bit there just to get my heart broken this weekend, I'm sure. But I don't know, man. I think the White Sox ultimately probably will take care of business. Ben, going back to your comment on the Reds starters, they have not named starters for Saturday or Sunday yet. But I think they actually should be lined up to where they'll have Luis Castillo on the mound Saturday, and Sonny Gray, I think, should get the ball Sunday because Castillo pitched Monday, Gray pitched Tuesday. So they should be rested if they want to go that route. I don't think they would be able to clinch the 2 seed prior to then. So I imagine we probably will end up seeing those aces on the back end. But like you said, too, it is a very, very strong rotation going for the Twins this weekend as well. So really just some great baseball to watch. Whoever ends up winning, make sure you tune in.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. And I mean, I feel like if the excitement of baseball brings, I mean, this weekend is I think is the weekend to watch baseball. It's baseball's chance this weekend to bring that excitement, especially because, I mean, I don't know about you guys in terms of what other sports you follow, but like, unfortunately, at this time of year, usually baseball's in the full spotlight. I mean, you might have like an NFL. I mean, the NFL season starts, so you have like people hyped about the start of the NFL season usually, but like the NBA and NHL season haven't started at this point in the season. Usually like the focus of the sporting world is on baseball, and this is where like the baseball gets their heart of national attention. But then if you look at this year, unfortunately, that kind of hasn't been the case. And the problem is it's because of all this craziness in the year that NHL and NBA are currently. I mean, the NHL is currently in the middle of the Stanley Cup Finals, battle for the biggest trophy in sports, which I've also been covering this past week. Been a fun series to cover. Can't go wrong with the hockey playoffs. And then the NBA currently in their conference finals too, and the NFL season underway. So I think this is time that like baseball needs to like create some real excitement this week and going into the playoffs, and in order to really get its viewership up, because it's a little bit concerning this year that they have to have all this excitement in baseball going on, but it's going relatively unnoticed among the rest of the world of sports, I would say.
You do bring up a really good point, Ben, and it does seem like the baseball playoffs are not as highly touted right now, even though it's a new series, even though World Series brought a huge amount of TV revenue the last few years, and I'm sure maybe they'll get some more this year too, especially with the $25 MLB TV deals that they had for the playoffs, which looks pretty enticing. But you're right, NBA playoffs are in the thick of things, so is the NHL. Football started off again, so a lot of sports fans in general might not watch baseball on Sundays right now whenever there's a game because they're happy that their season's back. So it is kind of poor timing right now. But hopefully, I'm sure a lot of overzealous fans and fans just interested in seeing the new playoff format will be there in the thick of things once the playoffs start.
And you got college football starting this weekend. Well, starting this weekend for me, my SEC bias is showing, but it's been going the last couple of weeks for everybody else. But, even more teams starting to play now. The Big Ten announcing that they're going to return to play in October. So there is certainly a lot going on for baseball to compete with. But I agree with Adam. I do think the new playoff format is going to draw in some more viewers. And I think that I really like the way they set up the TV schedule for the first round of the playoffs. I saw they released it the other day, but they're going to have games starting like 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to where you can like watch the end of every game and see those final innings. And that's setting up awesomely for a great day of just sitting on your couch watching baseball. And I think we've earned it after the year we've had, fellas. Let's just take in all the baseball. And I'm excited for expanded playoffs, more games to watch, longer first round, and that all those series going 3 games, no 1-game wild card, which those are certainly exciting. But Ben, Adam, too. We talked about the Yankees last episode. It really sucks to lose that 1-game wild card. So I'm glad that none of us are going to have to deal with that now. And we've got some awesome baseball to watch, but I want to take us back to another one of the playoff races that we're keeping our eyes on, and that is for the 4th and 5th seed in the AL race. And that is pretty much looking like it's going to be White Sox, Twins, or Yankees at this point. An advantage definitely to the White Sox and Twins. Like we said, the Twins entering play today with a half-game lead. But Twins are off today. If the White Sox win, they're actually playing the Yankees, I believe. Aren't they, Adam? No, it's Indians. Sorry. My bad. False alarm. But the White Sox could draw even with the Twins if they win today, which would leave the Yankees 2 games behind. 2.5. That would put them 2.5. They're currently 2 games behind the White Sox with that 5 seed in the AL right now. Fellas, any chances of the Yankees catching up and getting that 4th seed in the AL?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I mean, the Yankees have been playing better as of late, to my memory, but like, I just don't exactly see the Yankees taking that number 4 seed. I mean, first off, they don't have a really. First off, well, starting tonight, they're facing against Ryu from the Blue Jays, and that's not a really favorable matchup if you look at it, just given where the Blue Jays are and how they're trying to just get in the postseason. And this weekend they're playing against the Marlins team, who's fighting for everything for the postseason. I'm not saying that Marlins team is like going to get it necessarily, but I just don't really see the Yankees having much of an edge in the weekend matchup, unfortunately. And I just don't see them doing enough for the 4 seed. Plus, they feel like they have less to lose now because, they've really they had already clinched the playoffs. Well, I guess the other two teams had already clinched the playoffs already too. But with the Yankees inconsistent with like not any. I mean, with not a whole lot of real stars and stuff. I just don't know if that'll be enough to get them through the weekend. You might disagree, but what do you guys think?
I think it also comes back down to scheduling too, and I think for the Yankees at this point, getting the number 4 seed is just too little, too late. They won 10 games straight, which is great because they also lost 7 games in a row right before then, and they almost pretty much reversed that, which is great. But then they counted the Toronto Blue Jays, which they've traded wins back and forth. And I would say in the last 4 games, best case scenario, they split with the Blue Jays. And they take 2 out of 3 of the Marlins, maybe go 3-1 or go 2-2 the next 4 games. And that won't be enough to bypass the Twins or the White Sox, because I think for both of those teams, they can go 1-2 in their last few games or 2-2, or they can play pretty similar to the Yankees, because the Yankees right now are 2 games behind the White Sox and 2.5 games behind the Twins. So it's not really too close for them right now. And there's just too little time to try to catch back up.
I would agree with you, Adam. I think pretty much the only way the Yankees would get to that 4 seed at this point is if both Minnesota and Chicago ended up getting swept, which I'd kind of be surprised if either one of them got swept, let alone both of them. So I think, like you said, probably a little too late for New York. But I wish it was a little closer, man, because the difference between that 5 seed and that 4 seed could be pretty huge in that the 3-game series, the wild card series, first round, all 3 of those games will be played at the better seed's home ballpark. So that 4 seed is going to get 3 home games potentially if it goes to 3 games in the series against that 5 seed. So having to play 3 on the road, that could be a big deal, especially for a team like Adam. I know we were talking pre-show. The Yankees have struggled a little bit on the road. So it's a big deal, and I think they may end up being sad that they didn't get that 4 seed. That not really cutting edge analysis by me there that they'll be sad, but I think they will be.
I think you're right, and we did talk about in the pregame, and just for those that are interested in the home road record, the Yankees are 21-7 at home and 11-17 on the road. Meanwhile, the Twins are 23-5 at home and 12-17 on the road. So, of course, everyone's been talking about, hey, Yankees have the Twins number in the 2000s, which is entirely true. And last year, it felt great as a Yankee fan to sweep the Twins, especially since their offense was so hyped and Yankees shut them down relatively, and the Yankees' offense was even better. That was a lot of fun, but it's not looking great for them to be on the road right now. Even against the White Sox, they're 17-12. Or 17-12 on the road, 17-10 at home. So they're also a tough team to face. And I wouldn't be too surprised to get booted out of the first round. I really hope that's not the case. I have a lot of faith in their team and making a deep playoff run, but it's definitely going to be difficult for them.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, Ben. I was out of turn there.
Yeah,
you go for it, buddy.
I think you've both kind of made convincing arguments that it is going to be a real stretch for the Yankees. I mean, with everything they have to deal with their roster, it's already so much to overcome. I mean, they might just want to kind of try out little pieces, little by little right now too, because they've already clinched a postseason spot this weekend anyway. So who knows? I don't know. Who knows how much they might be going for that. But and with the whole home field advantage thing, it's interesting. I do still think home field advantage is relevant, even without fans in the crowd. I mean, I know Manfred said he wants to get fans in the crowd by the pennant rounds, but and World Series. But I actually think that there's still the home field advantage thing cannot be underestimated too much in the first round of the playoffs. What do you guys think? I mean, I know in the World Series it turned out to not be a thing last year, home field advantage, because all the games were won on the road. But I think I still don't want to underestimate what home field advantage can do.
And Adam, I'll let us get back on our regular order here. If you want to weigh in first, if you think home field advantage is a big deal.
I think it is. I know, Ben, you make a great point in that, yes, there's no fans, but for the Yankees and Twins, at least, there's still been a huge disparity on how they've played at home and then on the road. And perhaps later in the series, it won't matter as much because they'll be playing at different ballparks. The AL will be playing in Arlington, the NL will be playing in San Diego, and unless you're the Padres, you're not going to be benefiting too much from that. And even them, they might not be benefiting as much. But I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna affect them a lot in the wild card round, but maybe not too much in the later rounds.
I agree with Adam. I completely forgot about the bubbles in Houston and Arlington before Adam said that, and that kind of nullifies the importance of home field advantage to me, at least in those later rounds. I do think it still plays up in the wild card round, and certainly being the last team to bat, that's always going to have value, especially when you're getting a runner on second base in extra innings. I think that even more so, having the chance to walk off right away, that's huge. But yeah, no fans in the stands. I don't think that's maybe as big a deal. I think everybody's a little bit closer together with the bubble situation. So I think that kind of nullifies the home field argument for me. So good point. Thank you for reminding me of that, Adam. But other than that, moving on from AL, a little more intrigue over in the NL, especially in the NL Central, where still we got those three teams pretty much right on top of each other. That is Cardinals, Reds, Brewers, all fighting for that second place spot in the division still. Cardinals still in play for first place, I believe, because the Cubs just can't win. But very, very intriguing race there in the NL Central. The Cardinals currently holding that second spot right now. They are up no, they're tied with the Reds actually right now. It's all confusing, the math with the different amount of games played. And I think the Cardinals actually have 2 games left on the end of their schedule against the Royals that might not end up getting made up if it doesn't impact whether or not they would actually make the playoffs. But that still could have some pretty huge seeding implications. Ben, what are you making of that NL Central race in this last weekend?
Boy, I mean, what a race that's going to be in this last weekend, especially given that you have 2 of the opponents actually going head-to-head with the Brewers and Cardinals. And, I mean, I personally am really liking the Reds, like I was saying before. And, I mean, although they're, like, not currently holding that top spot, I mean, I think they have just enough power. I know hitting-wise isn't maybe their strength with their pitching, but I think they might have just enough power to maybe carry them this weekend, and they have a relative edge in terms of power over like the Brewers and Cardinals, so that could help carry them this weekend. I do think pitching-wise this weekend, that division, though, I think I'm not going to rule out the Cardinals either because of the fact that they have some good effective pitchers like Jack Flaherty, Carlos Martinez taking the mound this weekend, so I'm personally liking the Reds and Cardinals there. But if I had to make a prediction tonight, I would honestly actually still go. I still have faith in the Reds, so I'd still go for the Reds for that second spot. But then maybe also give the Cardinals one of the wild card spots. Brewers, unfortunately, I'm actually not liking them as much. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like the Brewers don't have anything like that exciting going for them offensively. But like,
thank you.
But especially, I mean, look at Christian Yelich and the dismal season he's having. But yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals and Reds have enough to both be carried into the playoffs there. Like, I think one of them is definitely going to get that 4 seed. Other is going to get a wild card regardless of what happens.
Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in one of our earlier shows in the year, I said that the Brewers weren't too much without Christian Yelich. And once he was taken out of the equation, now it's what you're seeing, because now they're a fringe playoff team that might be the 3rd best team out of the Cardinals, the Reds, and also the Brewers themselves, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not a whole lot there without Christian Yelich. But still, credit to the Brewers for hanging in this race and making it close. I think they probably have overperformed a little bit, I guess, considering how little else there is beside Yelich and how little they've gotten from him. So credit to the Brewers for hanging in there. But I agree with Ben and that I think they are going to end up being the odd team out in that NL Central race. I think the Reds are definitely the best of that bunch in the Cardinals, Reds, Brewers. I think they have better hitting and better pitching than both of those other teams. But I do think they also have the toughest matchup this weekend in playing the Twins, and then the Cardinals and Brewers play each other, which I don't think either one of those rosters is particularly strong, but I do think the Cardinals is a little bit stronger than the Brewers. Part of that reasoning being pitching. Like you said, Ben, having Jack Flaherty, having a true ace, I think especially helps for the playoffs and playoff-like environments that we'll see this weekend. But it really, what I've seen throughout the year is the Brewers and Cardinals just keep splitting games against each other. Like the Cardinals will win one, the Brewers will win one. And so they got a 4-game series this weekend. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them split that 2-2. In which case, I think the Reds, if they can win 2 out of 1 with Minnesota, they would walk away with that second place in the NL Central Division. And pretty big seeding implications there as well. And that, what's the difference here? We're talking like the difference between a 7 or 8 seed and then getting that 5 seed, right?
Or 6 seed, because the NL East is also like right around the same place, just hovering around 500.
Okay, so I mean, this could be, you're not only making the playoffs, you're potentially avoiding the Braves or the Dodgers. So that could be pretty big. And I mean, those are teams that you don't want to face. They're kind of the super teams of the NL. And if you're one of those fringe teams, you might mess around and get swept. But definitely some intriguing baseball to watch this weekend in the NL Central. And we haven't really talked about my Cubs all that much. Can they just win against Pittsburgh? But that series is done now. Can we please, for the love of God, just score a couple runs and win this division, put it away, and just have an easier matchup in the first round maybe? Because matchups could be everything for us right now, because we are just not hitting at all, not scoring any runs. My Cubbies are. So I'm very concerned for them, but still hopeful, I guess, that the math looks okay for them to still win the division. And we haven't talked about anybody else as having a chance to win that division. So hopefully my Cubbies just hang on.
I mean, I kind of see, what's your guys' magic number for the division? I mean, now?
I think it's 3 still.
No, it's still.
Should be 3.
3. I mean, I'm pretty, given that like we aren't so certain about the Reds or even the Cardinals, and I still see the Cubs being able to take it this weekend unless they really collapse. So I have some faith in your Cubs, but like, I mean, I don't know about the playoffs, but like I definitely have most faith that the Cubs are going to take the division.
Yeah, if my theory holds up that Cardinals Brewers split 2-2 each, then Cubs would only need to win 1 out of 3 against the White Sox, which, I mean, surely, all right, I'm not even going to like say anything. I don't want to jinx us. Just go out there, please. Just win 1 game, please. I need this. I really need this, Cubs.
Well, Henry, you should be happy that the Cubs have a 3-game lead over the Reds and the Cardinals right now. So they should be just fine with 4 games remaining and Cardinals playing more. And I want to talk about the Cardinals a little bit too, because I know we're high on the Reds, as we should, because Bauer acting like Conor McGregor last night and striking out 12 batters and saying, "Give me that Cy Young," makes us all feel good because he's kind of this new weird face of baseball. And he also hurt himself with drones in prior years. So he's just a character. And everyone wants kind of the Reds to just make it because they've been a fun pit the entire season long. But the Cardinals, they might get there because they might not play all 60 games. And Henry, you mentioned how they might be playing 2 games against the Royals. When I looked at MLB's schedule, they're not set to play that. They're actually only set to play 58 games. So imagine a scenario where all 3 teams are tied at 500 or so. The Cardinals would have that because not only do they lead by interdivisional record, but they would also be ahead in winning percentage too, because they have the same 500 record, but 2 games less. So that would be pretty bizarre. And if they kind of just at least play around 500 for the rest of it, they could make it.
That really is bizarre, because that like almost kind of makes you think that like playing less games is to your advantage, that they're in a sense almost being rewarded for what looked like kind of questionable COVID behaviors and maybe not being so careful and containing the spread. I know there was pictures like a week before the season started, Cardinals players like out partying, lake houses, no masks or anything. So that would be awfully wild to see that end up coming around and paying off to their benefit. But the way you broke down the numbers right there, Adam, that sounds pretty likely that because I don't think that series is going to end up getting made up because the Cardinals are going to most likely be in the playoffs. They're pretty much a lock at this point, the way the numbers are sitting. Unless I guess they go out and if they lost all 4 to Milwaukee, they might be on the outside looking in. But then if that did happen, I think that it would have to reschedule that series with the Royals because they're not going to keep the Cardinals out of the playoffs because of that. But if it's only seeding, my understanding is that they wouldn't reschedule it in that case. So definitely some intriguing scenarios swirling around here.
But I know you have something to say and respond to Henry as well. But
well, I mean, no, I just think that in some ways it's almost maybe not fair that like the Cardinals do get to make the playoffs like that, even with like the 2 less games. I mean, what I wonder is, are people going to see this season as relevant? Like, what if the Cardinals make a big playoff run too? I mean, will people even see this season as relevant? I mean, I've loved watching the Cardinals over the year. They've always been a national team I've enjoyed. But I know much to Henry's dismay. But I just don't. I just need to really want to reconsider the relevance of this, and I just find it pretty hard to believe. Like, I don't remember ever when that's happened in a sport where like a team's played less games in the season. I mean, I know teams have played more games who've had tiebreakers, but like when has a team played less games in the season? That's something pretty bizarre in any sport, honestly.
And just to play devil's advocate too, the Cardinals are playing a doubleheader as well. And while there's teams are having more doubleheader sweeps this year, it also is still, it seems like more likely than not that a split doubleheader. So that could also be their disadvantage as well. And then they face the Brewers, who are doing a little better. So imagine I think they're playing 5 games or so. And I think 3 of them are against the Brewers. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. But let's say they split the doubleheader and then lose like 3 games against the Brewers or so, 3 of those 4 games, then they could be on the outside looking in. So it is interesting how that will compare.
Yeah, I must have miscounted when I was going through looking at Cardinals Brewers games for the rest of the week. I thought they only had 4 in that series, but I might have missed the doubleheader somewhere along the line. That would certainly be wild to see a Cardinals collapse and then missing the playoffs in that way. But yeah, I'm sorry. I did my thumbs down. I kind of hate every other NL Central team except the Cubs. So I wouldn't really be upset to see any of them miss the playoffs. But I do think of that crop, possibly of the division. As much as I hate to say it, I think the Reds are the cream of the crop. I think they're the best team, and ultimately, with how hot they've been lately, I think they're going to be in the playoffs. But I would expect the Cardinals still to squeak in as well. So I think we're probably all in agreement on that. We all have Cardinals and Cardinals Reds to get in. Nobody likes the Brew Crew. All right, cool.
Can't say I'm too crazy about their chances this year, but I mean, who knows? The 2011 scenario could possibly happen. I don't think I predicted everything that happened that last day of baseball of the 2011 season, which I heard you guys talking about on the podcast last week.
Yeah, that was not a fun day for the Yankees because Evan Longoria walked that off in considerable fashion. So that was not too fun. But I think the Red Sox got booted from those playoffs, so at least that helped a little bit. However, we should keep moving along, and there's another second place race that's happening in the National League, and that's the NL East between the Marlins and the Phillies. And I have a fun backstory on this because the Phillies, my friend who's a huge Mets fan, he writes for this company called Overtime Heroics, and he kept saying, the Phillies are a 4th place team. He's a huge Mets fan too. The Mets are not making the playoffs. The Phillies are at least going to be in 3rd, and the Marlins are in 2nd. So it is pretty hilarious how far we've come in a shortened season. And these teams are also just hovering above around 500. The Marlins are 20-28. The Phillies are 20-29. So they're both very close to each other. And we'll talk about a little later, too, how they are also could be fighting for a wild card spot if they don't make it, and could be fighting with the NL Central teams that we're talking about, too. So it will be interesting to see. I know the Marlins are playing the Yankees for that 3-game series starting tomorrow, and they have pitchers such as Alcantara and Urania pitching. So I would believe the Yankees can probably win 2 out of 3 in that. So I think the Phillies have a slight edge in this case.
Yeah, but the Phillies turn around. They play the Rays themselves, so certainly no slouch in that matchup. But maybe the Rays take their feet off the gas pedal a little bit, already locking up that division. Which I don't know if we mentioned that. So congratulations, Tampa Bay Rays. At least from Ben and myself, Adam. Maybe on the inside is wishing you congratulations, but I'd probably be awfully deep down. But the Marlins, kind of the poster boy of teams that have benefited from the shortened season and that anything can happen in 60 games. So definitely a feel-good story to see them still hanging around here at the finish line. But like you said, Adam, the schedule not really doing them any favors, having to take on the Yankees this weekend, but at least not much more favorable for the Phillies facing the Rays. I don't know about you all. I'm hoping that the Marlins get in just because I want to see that underdog. And I mean, sure, maybe the Phillies weren't anybody's World Series pick coming into the year, but I think most people would agree that that is an objectively stronger roster. So I think that makes the Marlins the underdog in my book. So I'm rooting for them there. And they've got some guys that have been a little bit surprising this year and performing well. Most of their pitchers, they have great contributions from their pitching staff. Sandy Alcantara, Pablo Lopez. I think Jordan Yamamoto has been on the shelf for a while, but still another guy who I like going forward. Sixto Sanchez. There we go. But yeah, I'm hoping the Marlins get in, but this one is feeling too close for me to really say definitively one way or the other. Ben, do you have a stronger opinion than I do?
I will have to go with Adam on this one. I mean, I think both of you actually touched on 2 points that I want to make valid, that are like totally valid points. I mean, first off, with I do think the Phillies definitely have a favorable matchup. I mean, Henry, like you said, the Rays are no resting matter, and that's true. But like you also said, I mean, the Rays might be taking it a little easier this weekend than the Yankees, the Marlins opponent, as the Yankees are still just barely hanging in there for that higher seed. But then again, even the Yankees, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Yankees might still be trying to figure some parts of theirs out and playing some stuff safe is what I think, just given that they've already clinched the postseason spot. But I'm liking the Phillies in this race, as fun as the Marlins have been to watch, as like amazing that they thrived in this season, and as great as the future is actually really looking for their team. Finally, we can say that. I still see the Phillies having a significant edge over the Marlins when you get down to it. I mean, like when you look at their hitting, I mean, Bryce Harper's been hitting pretty well lately, and that's around the right time. And then with pitching wise, it looks like that 1-2 punch they have of Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, who are set to take the mound Saturday and Sunday, definitely give them that edge over the Marlins. And I don't know, some of the Marlins stats, like their pitching ERA, especially their bullpen ERA, was a little high. And I just think some of the lack of experience just might make it a little harder in these close races. I just feel like sometimes these close races do come down to experience at times. So I'm going with the Phillies there.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies, and you both brought up the point how the Phillies are a stronger team. They are just better with brand names. They have Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, Aaron Nola, and Zach Wheeler. They have aces of their own. And even though the Marlins have Sixto Sanchez, and could be a sleeper Rookie of the Year candidate, maybe even sneaking past Jake Cronenworth, but that's a little bit of a hot take. They do lack experience, and I think it does help them that they're playing a Yankees team that might be taking it easy a little bit, considering how hard it might be for them to get that number 4 seed, and how they already have Cole and Tanaka set for games 1 and 2, and they could be pushing for that. And meanwhile, the Rays, they're still fighting for best record in baseball, so maybe that's their motivation to keep on going too. And they're no team to slouch as well, and the Phillies are playing them. But if they both have the same kind of last 3 game skid where, let's say, they win 2 out of 3, lose 2 out of 3, the Phillies would have the better intra-divisional record. So, or they very well possible could have. They currently are a half game over the Marlins. The Marlins are all but finished after tonight. They'll be 20-19 or 20-20 or 21-19 after tonight. So that also plays a factor as well. And it could really come down to the wire for these two teams. It might even come down to interdivisional record.
I'm glad you raised the tiebreaker there, Adam. That was actually going to be my next question, because as it sits right now, the Marlins are a half game up on the Phillies, and the Marlins are in action tonight while the Phillies are off. So if the Marlins were able to get that win, they're currently delayed against the Braves. But if they're able to win that, they would enter the weekend a game up on the Phillies, a full game up with those 3 games left. So they would have a chance to, maybe both teams win 2 out of 3 or both teams lose 2 out of 3. Then the Marlins wouldn't have to worry about that tiebreaker. But I do think it is interesting that the Phillies do have that tiebreaker. That perhaps another advantage to them. But my answer to this, to who wins this one, may depend on whether or not the Marlins can beat the Braves tonight. So kind of interesting. See, perhaps the season coming down to the last Friday rather than the last Saturday, or sorry, today's Thursday. Yeah, I wish it was Friday. Not quite. Tomorrow, hang in there, everybody. It's been a long work week. But if the Marlins can take care of business tonight against the Braves, I think that could go a long way in determining this race. So keep your eye on that one if they actually start playing. Like I said, they are delayed right now. But definitely, I love it, guys, that we have so much baseball to talk about, so much coming down to these last couple days. That's the way it's supposed to be.
There's certainly some advantage to a shortened season at span at playoffs, and I think me and you, Henry, are a little bit skeptical of how that would work or how long it would stay, but it's been a pretty steady September. This September baseball has felt a lot like October baseball as well, to say the least.
Absolutely. Kind of the whole year has felt a little like extended October, kind of playoff environment like we thought. Every game meaning that much more. Maybe not quite to the extent that I thought it might at the beginning of the season, but still, you can feel that every game a little more important, and then every 7-0 loss to the Pirates hurts all that much more. Come the heck on, Cubbies. You get 2 hits against the Pirates, man. Alec Mills no hits the Brewers like 2 weeks ago, and then gets absolutely shelled by the Pirates today. Doesn't make sense. I'm frustrated. I'm stressed out, guys. There's a lot going on, but I'm hoping that the Cubbies can take care of business. But what else do we have to watch in the NL? I think there's another race or two to watch here, namely who gets those last 2 wild card spots. Like we said, still very much wide open in the NL Central, seeing which of those teams fall down. Marlins, Phillies in that equation as well. But then another team that we haven't talked about tonight, the Giants, still very much alive in that race. I think the Giants are actually ahead right now. Are they in possession of a wild card spot, gentlemen?
They are, I believe. I think they're in the 8th spot. I'm really liking what I've seen. I mean, it looked like they were, I don't know what the final score was today, but they were losing today to the Rockies, which I was a little surprised about given how they've been playing the last couple of days. I've been loving, I mean, as much as like obviously I only want to see a one Bay Area team playoff this year. It's hard to kind of not like what the Giants have been doing lately, which like even from me, it's been an interesting appreciation because they're showing signs of kind of reminding me of like the Nationals late last season, everything just coming together at the right time. Stop me if you've heard this before with the San Francisco Giants and their playoff runs. And I mean, because like yesterday, for example, yesterday's victory against the Colorado Rockies, they had like guys breaking out who you wouldn't expect, like Mauricio Dubon coming through, and Logan Webb, who has had some struggles, came out and pitched decently, while Gabe Kapler, of anyone who we always criticize for his managing strategies, actually had an interesting strategy that worked last night when he used Caleb Berger as the opener. And then two nights ago, you had Alex Dickerson getting a pinch hit go-ahead home run. Things like that are the things that kind of make teams break through in playoff runs. And if the Giants can continue that this weekend, I'll tell you what, I'm really strong on them being able to hold that wild card spot. I think their matchup against the Padres is pretty favorable given where the Padres are pretty set where they are in the playoffs now. And I think that I really feel strong that the Giants are going to get one of those wild card spots. And not to mention Mike Yastrzemski wasn't even with them the last few days, and he's just returning this weekend, it sounds like.
Giants are an incredibly fun team to watch, and they just have an insane history because everyone remembers that they won in 2010, 2012, 2014, and then since then they have really just held on to the past, held on to their somewhat dynasty as close to as to a 2000s dynasty. Then last year they were flirting with a playoff run, and then they fell towards the end. Now they actually do have the number 7 seed in the NL, and I'm not entirely sure what their schedule is, so if one of you guys know, that would be great. But they're not facing the Rays, you're not facing the Yankees, you're not facing the White Sox, you're not facing the Twins, and they already have a seed. So that can help them out a lot, especially in the last few days. And we already talked about it earlier, so I think Giants seem like a lock, and the Reds are just on fire. They're bringing out Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray in the last 2 games. So I think it seems like Giants-Reds, it's not as anything but a sure thing, but they seem like the 2 most likely teams to hold on to a wild card spot.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say Giants-Reds probably the most likely outcome. And the Giants have 4 games left against the Padres. That is what their schedule is looking like for the rest of the year. Another team potentially taking their foot off the gas. Ben, you alluded to it, that they don't really have any seeding implications left to play for. Pretty much locked in, if not completely locked in, to that 4 seed. So, but you never know. Playing a division rival, maybe it's tempting to try and keep the Giants out of the playoffs if you're the Padres. But I would expect, like Adam said, to see the Giants get in there ultimately.
I would agree there, and I would honestly expect. I know Henry, you were hyped about the Marlins, and I know a lot of people were hyped about the Marlins, but given the way that like the Reds and Giants have been playing, and given the fact that I was saying that I think the Reds and Cardinals are both going to get in the playoffs, unfortunately, I think the Marlins, along with the Brewers, are going to be like the odd men out in terms of teams that are going to be close but no cigar to making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, anything can happen, of course. The Marlins or Phillies can certainly keep playing well, and whoever did not claim second place can make it. Same with the Reds and the Cardinals, same with the Brewers too, if they have a nice last series. So really it's still up for grabs. Who knows at this point? But there are definitely some stronger teams than other ones amongst the wild card race in the NL.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that maybe in these last couple of days, my Cubbies can flip the script and reemerge as one of those strong teams, but not looking so great. But, that's okay. There's plenty of other baseball to watch, plenty of action this weekend as we've broken down for you. And I believe that is about all the time we have for tonight's show. So thank you all for tuning in. This has been the Exit Velo podcast presented by Back Sports Page. We will be back same time next week, moving forward with that 7 o'clock Thursdays. Look for us at that weekly time slot. Thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully your favorite team makes the playoffs. Until next time.